live with Sh.Khalfan Al Esry on Let's Connect.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to your Ramadan radio program, Let's Connect. We're with you during the blessed month of Ramadan. This is your host, Rym Aoudia, with the Honorable Sh.Khalfan Al Esry taking us through this journey. And with us, the sound engineer, Safiya Al-Habsi. We're now live in the air. You can also call us in with your questions or comments at the numbers 24602058. That's 24602058. The other number is 24694315. That's 24694315. Sheikh Khalfan, Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheikh Khalfan. Yesterday, alhamdulillah, we spoke about dua.
Yes.
Which is the Arabic word for supplication.
Indeed.
And a fundamental thing for us to realize from that is that Allah answers all calls.
Yeah.
He might either answer immediately,
Yes.
or He might delay it, or He might keep the reward for the afterlife.
Absolutely.
And that is based on Allah's blessings and knowledge of what's best for us.
Including His infinite wisdom.
It's infinite wisdom, mashallah. And He gave an example where a child might go to a parent asking for a motorbike.
Yes.
And the parent knows that it's dangerous for the child right now, or the child is not ready for it.
Yes.
You've also mentioned to be mentally, physically, and spiritually ready.
Indeed.
Pure, to make the dua more powerful and to connect more strongly with Allah.
Yes.
And the best way to go about that is to praise Allah, thank Him, show your gratitude, and then we make our request.
Yes.
You also mentioned moments for us to capitalize on these, which includes between the call of prayers, before sunrise and sunset, after prayer, while fasting, and also during the blessed month of Ramadan, where we tend to be in a more spiritual mode.
Indeed, yeah.
And before the show, Sheikh Khalfan, you shared a beautiful dua with
Yes.
me, and would love to share the same with the listeners.
Well, you inspired me yesterday to think about, we always make du'as in Arabic,
Yes.
and sometimes our dear listeners who don't understand Arabic maybe do not comprehend the power of du'a.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody last night asked me to make du'a for them
Very nice.
via message. So just before dawn, after having our last meal,
Mm-hmm.
I sat there writing in a du'a and including that person in the du'a. And this is how it goes. O Allah, you have commanded us to seek your support through supplication. You have instructed us to make the call directly to you. You promised to answer our calls, to grant our wishes, to fulfill our needs, to shower us with your blessings, to cleanse us from our shortfalls and sins, to elevate us in the ranks of righteous, and to handsomely reward us with happiness, joy, and peace of mind in this life, and with the blissful life in the eternal life. O Allah, our word can do no justice to our calls. Our limited mind cannot comprehend your majestic glory. Our heart cannot express enough our emotions of devotion and love to you. Whatever we do or say cannot demonstrate enough our gratitude for the endless provision from your kind and merciful generosity. O Allah, in this holy month of Ramadan, we beg of you to hold by our hands. Guide us to your straight path. Support us at difficult moments. Rescue us from wrongdoing and from tribulations of life. Inspire us with your wisdom to remain steadfast. Protect us from self-harm and from temptations of the devil's calls. Continue to shower us with your bounties and blessings. O Allah, be with us at moments of loneliness and weaknesses. Let us strive to seek your pleasure with grace and humility. Elevate us in the ranks of believers and the righteous. Purify our acts and character as we engage in our affairs. Let us remain steadfast to noble values of integrity, humility, and purity. Make us resourceful to serve your deen and to serve mankind. Protect us and our beloved ones from all harm. Grant our parents forgiveness and mercy. And above all, Ya Allah, as our life in this dunya ends, grant us permission to enter your blissful Jannat al-Firdaus. Ameen, Ya Rabbal Alameen.
Ameen, ameen. Thank you, Sh.Khalfan. Can I have a copy of that?
Absolutely, inshallah.
Excellent. And the good news for our listeners that we'll also share this with them. This is the first time announcing it. We've just launched a Facebook page
MashaAllah.
for the show.
Yeah.
It's facebook.com/321connect. That's the number 3, the number 2, the number 1, and the word connect. CONNECT. So inshallah, the purpose from that we share the learnings, the insights from the show in the Facebook page as well, and where they can ask us any questions or certain topics.
Indeed, mashallah. So we hope that page is going to be active for those who have missed the programs.
Yes.
And it can be maybe a reference to people beyond Ramadan.
Exactly.
So we need to connect throughout the year.
Sustain the connection.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. So Sheikh Khalfan, this brings us to today's topic. Is about relationships.
Yes.
And it is an area that we often make dua because it's either it goes wrong or we're praying for it to go in a positive way. And today in particular, we'll be focusing on marriage.
MashaAllah.
Are you ready?
Yes, let's go for it. The marital relationship.
Yes. And it's common that we get influenced by society or what media tells us or family, friends, and even our own assumptions about marriage. So if I ask you to give us a reality check from your own perspective about marriage, what would that be?
نعم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه. First of all, we need to understand why people get married. Why marriage has to be part and parcel of life. Almighty Allah mentions in the Quran 5 main reasons as why people have to get married. Or why it is necessary for people to get married. 3 of these reasons are combined, are mentioned in one verse, and 2 other reasons are mentioned in different verses. Verse number 1, Almighty Allah says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. Amongst His signs is this: He created from you mates, or from your other half, a spouse. Why? لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. Number 1, so that you may find tranquility in that. Sukun, second, tranquility. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً. And He made affection amongst you. He made you to exchange, to have that affection amongst you. And the number 3, وَرَحْمَةً, and mercy.
Okay.
So those are the 3 things. One needs to find that tranquility. In other words, peace when they come home. It's a home. It's not a house. It's a home where we need to find that tranquility. Have affection towards each other. It's not love. Allah did not talk about love. Mawadda is different from mahabba. Mawadda is the affection that is based on companionship. Al-wadud, al-wud is a friend. But it is that companionship of friendship. And then rahmah, which is mercy. And then the other 2 reasons, are mentioned somewhere else, so the other 2 purposes. He says, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنْ. They are your garments and you are their garments. In other words, we are there to support each other, to protect each other, to also have that secrets maintained and contained within ourselves. The cloth also gives you a bit of warmth. It covers your body. It gives you personality. It gives you character. It gives you your identity. And that is what each person is there to complement the other, to represent the other. And the last purpose, Almighty Allah says, Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind, ittaqu rabbakum. Be conscious of your Lord. الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة, who created you from a single pair, from a single soul. وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. And then from that soul, He made you to have offsprings of men and women. So it is about continuation of mankind, the race of mankind, in other words, to have offsprings, to have children. So those are the 5 purposes why Muslims are told to get married. And because of that, for 5 things, a lot of people sometimes overlook why they get married. Initially, when people get married, in actual marriage, we can talk about it later, it goes through 3 distinct phases. And with those 3 distinct phases, one has to be careful of those 3 distinct phases. But we'll come to that later on. So let us talk about the Prophet of Islam. when he talked about now selecting a spouse, because that's the first thing. How
Prerequisites.
Prerequisites.
Yes.
How do I go to select a spouse? In talking about a man, what should women look from a man? The Prophet of Islam said, إِذَا أَتَاكُمْ مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ فَزَوِّجُوهُ. If a man comes to you and you are so happy, you're so pleased with the way of life, how righteous, how noble person is, and how they steadfast in their relationship with Almighty Allah, deenahu. So the way of life incumbent in that is also being religious. وَخُلُقَهُ, and their manners, their character. فَزَوِّجُوهُ, then marry that person.
And how can one know that?
By asking. And this is it. So these are the procedures that happen in our society, specifically in Oman. So when a person comes to propose, normally they say, give us a grace period, we'll come back to you. Doesn't get an answer immediately. And then it is the duty of the father to go about and ask about that person. Now, if people go to pray normally in a mosque, that person would already be known. So one of the things that usually fathers look for, which mosque does this person go to? Because that is already one indication that this person is already fulfilling and is honoring the contract with Allah by observing the 5 daily prayers. The Prophet of Islam says, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُ الرَّجُلَ يَعْتَادَ الْمَسْجِدِ. If you see a man frequently going to the mosque, فَاشْهَدُوا لَهُ بِالْإِيمَانِ. Then be a witness that that person has got faith. Because only those who have faith will continuously and sustainably go to offer the prayers in a mosque. So that is one indication to fulfill the first requirement. The second requirement is about interaction, it's about manners, it's about behavior, it's about asking people, what do you know of this person? How do you evaluate this person? What is your opinion about this person? And usually when people are asked that question, and the reason behind it is because of marriage, then people have to give an honest answer. Whether this person is a cheater, whether this person is into drugs, or this person has got moments of rage and anger, whether this person is disrespectful to his parents, disrespectful to other people, or contrary to that, this person is an upright person, very kind, very gentle, very a gentleman personality. So those would come about with people whom he interacts with.
And so you know who to ask.
Yes,
also.
and of course, in our society, we are all open books. Because of the way we have the family ties and because of the social ties we have, basically people get to know us very quickly.
Okay.
Yep.
And so this is from the perspective of what?
The man.
Yes.
Now let us go to the woman. The woman, the Prophet of Islam said, تُنْكَحُ الْمَرْأَةُ لِأَرْبَعٍ. A woman is married for 4 reasons. لِجَمَالِهَا, because of her beauty. وَمَالِهَا, and her wealth. وَحَسَبِهَا وَنَسَبِهَا, and her family ties, her family status, her tribal status. وَلِدِينِهَا, and because of her deen, because of her way of life and her religious devotion. And now the Prophet of Islam said these are the 4. And then he said, فَظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ. Make sure you win, or make sure you succeed in marrying the person who has got deen, who's got religion. تَرِبَتْ يَدَاكَ, then your hands shall prosper. In other words, if a person has got deen, which is living to the moral values, noble values, then if they are also beautiful, rich, and from a noble family, it's a bonus. But if they don't have religion, then
none of them matters.
None of them, because a wife is going to be a mother, and mothers are the biggest influencers of children. So that is why the emphasis on the mother. In another common saying that Arabs say, al-ummu madrasa. A mother is a school. So if that mother is upright, if that mother is good with noble values, then definitely that will impact the children. It will impact the raising of the children, and children will tend to be like their mothers.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned, Sh.Khalfan, 3 phases.
Yes.
Well.
Before we get into that, why did the Prophet of Islam mention these 4? This is what the scholars say. Jews tend to go for wealth because they love money. Christians tend to go for beauty. Arabs tend to go for tribal links. So the Prophet of Islam said, forget what the Jews do, forget what the Christians do, forget what the Arabs do. Go for religion. Go for faith. If a woman is faithful, everything else comes. But if one can find a woman that is beautiful, rich, and from a noble family, and is religious, we say that is a jackpot. Go for her, she's everything. Yeah?
So acknowledge the human nature, what
Indeed.
people look for.
Absolutely.
Okay. Different.
Yeah.
So Sh.Khalfan, you mentioned
The three phases.
the 3 phases of marriage, yes.
Yes. 3 phases of marriage is that the first phase is the phase that we refer to as the phase of pre-marriage, the courting period. The courting period is when a man and a woman get attracted to each other. And then they see, you know what, there is something I see in the other person that I like, and the other person sees in the other that I like. So they tend to focus on the common ground that is attractive to both of them. And usually that courting period, following the being a fiancé as well as all the way to the proposal, they tend to be so kind, nice to each other.
Okay.
They try to be their best in conduct, in manner, in looks, in dresses, etc., in the way they treat each other. They exchange gifts with flowers and in evening dinner nights and
A loving phase.
wonderful statements. Basically, it is love in the air. That goes all the way to marriage, to the honeymoon.
Okay.
With honeymoon being over, the reality kicks in. Now they realize I have to be with this person for the rest of my life. And now the woman wakes up in the morning without the makeup. And he wakes up in the morning and says, is this the woman that I got married to, or is this another woman? She wakes up in the morning, at night she hears him snoring in bed. And she says, is this what I've wanted? And now he's got a few bad habits. When he takes off his shoes or his socks, he throws them away, or he doesn't support in cleaning the house, and he doesn't do the house chores and others. And here, the second phase is about to now, they begin to say, what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this marriage?
So evaluating.
The first part, it was, I'm here for the other person.
Okay.
That is the courting period all the way to the honeymoon. I'm here for you. The second phase is that, what am I going to get out of this marriage? These are my standards. These are my barriers. These are my requirements. And these are my yeah. So we begin to go and put conditions. We begin to have laws and procedures and controls. It's going to be my way or the highway. And then when children come, that is the third phase. It is when they shift from what's in it for me to what's in it for our children. So the focus now shifts to children. And usually during that time, love, the emotional love of it, the lustful love has already gone out of the window. And now they just live as companion with maybe good friends, but there's no love in the air anymore. There are no dinner lit candles. There is no more having those quiet moments. There is no having those moments of love, of romance, and together.
And isn't that a neglect from both sides?
It could be a neglect from both sides. It could be that the love in the air has already died out, or it has gone out of the window. So one thing we need to talk about marriage, it is the most maintenance intensive relationship. It requires continuous reviving, continuous maintenance. So the question would be, how best can we be good companions to each other and maintain that what Almighty Allah talked about, mawadda, which is affection. How can we feel for each other? How can we then accept each other? How can we exist together and be there for each other, support each other, have mercy on each other?
Yes, because you mentioned, Sh.Khalfan, about tranquility, affection, mercy, being garments for one another, and conscious of Allah. So, indeed, why isn't this present in most marriages?
In marriage, what I usually tell people who get married, if you want your marriage to survive and to make sure that you live a happy life with peace of mind, 4 things need to be in place. First of all, you need to accept each other unconditionally. Most of the time in marriages we have problems because a man wants to make his wife be like him, and a woman wants to make her husband be like her.
They're trying to change each other.
They try to change each other. And the whole idea is that you are the other half. You are not the same half. You are the other half. So you are there to complement each other. You are not there to compete with each other. So that's the first thing. Accept your spouse as he or she is without changing them an iota. And then that person, with time, will find ways to try to win the other person. But not to be forced to change. So the first thing we see as a mistake is that the man says, you're going to do it my way. And she says, no, you're going to do it my way. And that is the beginning of fights, and that is the beginning of differences, and that is the beginning of quarrels, and that is the beginning of clashes. And then sometimes it gets out of control.
Yes.
And then it becomes physical, and sometimes they even have to separate, and even in the early month of honeymoon.
Yeah.
So the first one is accept each other unconditionally. Number 2.
And how can that be achieved if you're not happy with some matters?
This is it. When we go to work, we accept people who work with unconditionally. We don't go to work to change people. When we meet people in society, we accept them as they are. We don't try and change them. When we have our friends, we accept our friends as they are without changing them. Yeah. So that is the first thing. And with time, the couple will learn on how to adjust, to minimize bits that annoy the other person.
And I guess it helps to appreciate the good already.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Focus on what's the good of the other person rather than what is missing. So accept each other unconditionally. Challenging as it is, but it's doable. Second thing is to forgive each other unconditionally. We all make mistakes. So we need to overlook shortfalls. We need to overlook the small mistakes. And usually in marriage, it's not the big mistakes that cause problems. Usually it is the small things. One drinks a cup of tea or glass of water and doesn't take it from the table. It irritates a woman. Why don't you take your glass out? He comes from work, sits in his comfortable sofa and doesn't find the remote control of television. It's not where it's supposed to be. He looks for it around, he doesn't see it. He blows his top off.
Frustrated.
Gets frustrated. He comes home and he sees that air conditioner, for example, are all switched on. And then he says, why all of these are on? Without knowing the reason. She comes home and she sees that the house is messed up with children. It's all being messed up. And then so it's all small stuff. It's not big things.
It's a daily life matters.
It's a daily small mistakes or irritations that eventually develop to become frustrations, and then they develop to become anger, and then they develop to become rage. So if one focuses on mistakes, that is what they're all going to see. So we say in marriage, in order to forgive each other and to accept each other unconditionally, we say in our house, please write a big banner as you enter the house and say, catch me doing something right.
Okay.
Normally we tend to catch people doing something wrong. And then we let them know that we caught them doing something wrong. And we make a story out of it. We make a hoo-ha out of it.
Yeah, drama.
And make a drama out of it. Now let us reverse the table. Let us turn the coin around and say, no, instead of me catching you doing something wrong, I'm going to catch you doing something right, and I'm going to tell you. This is what happens in football, as an example. When people score a goal, that is when the whole crowd cheers.
Yes.
And they all show their maximum happiness and emotion. Same thing. When people do something right, small as it is, especially with children or with the other half, say, wow, wonderful, excellent, magic. Words of encouragement to protect the self-esteem. And that is what we need to do. So I would rather see in every house, a banner before you enter the house is that before you enter.
Yes.
Have the mindset of catching people doing something right. That way you do not pay attention to the mistakes or to the small things that irritate you, that are not in order.
You're focusing on the right things.
The right
good
things.
Okay.
The third thing is that we need to support each other unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
In supporting each other, we have to realize that we need each other. There will be times of problems, times of tribulation, times of disparity, times of difficulties, of health, of financial, of emotions, of whatever, and we need each other.
Mm-hmm.
So have mercy on each other. Yeah. So we need to support each other at all levels, whether it is to do with relation, with finance, to do with physical, to do with mental, to do with whatever. We need to support each other as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
So support each other rather than compete each other or try to force each other to do things that are not right.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And the last thing, now that we've got accept each other
Yes.
unconditionally, forgive each other unconditionally, support each other unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
The last one that is most important as well is that in our marriage, all the time, see the other person
Mm-hmm.
as the only person who you're going to be with for the rest of your life.
Okay.
See that your life is incomplete without the other person.
Mm-hmm.
So that you need each other, you continue to support each other, you continue to be there for each other. And in so doing, supporting each other, being there for each other, we need to have that mercy on each other.
Mm-hmm.
So in all circumstances, whatever we do, make sure that you do not hurt each other at anything. And your differences can be resolved in a most gentle, friendly manner. So be there for each other as friends, companion forever.
Okay.
So if you cannot accept the person,
Mm-hmm.
if you cannot forgive the person, if you cannot support the person, then I can guarantee you it ain't gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to make sure that whatever happens, just the way I protect myself, I'm going to protect my other half.
Okay.
So it is to protect, to look after, the culmination of it is to say, if I get hurt, my other half gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
If I become successful, my other half becomes successful.
It's empathy for each other.
It's empathy is to make sure that you are one
Mm-hmm.
and nothing's going to separate you. In other words, do not allow immediate family,
Mm-hmm.
relatives, community, gossips, yeah? So have confidence and trust in each other. So that's the last thing.
Okay.
The last thing is that have faith and unconditional faith and trust on each other.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I put my trust in this person to look after my life.
Okay.
So that is the final one, is to have the unconditional trust and faith on each other. Is to reach that moment you say, you trust that person with your money, you trust that person with your heart, you trust that person with your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is who you're going to have for the rest of your life. Yeah.
The unity,
So you may
yeah.
just as well do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, don't say this is mine and this is yours. Yeah.
We.
It
It's
is
us.
ours.
Mm.
It is ours.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that is how to go about.
Okay.
Even when things don't work together
Mm-hmm.
and there's no way out but divorce, then children become our children. It's not my children. It's not your children.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my house. It's not your house. It is our house. And that is what we see in a lot of time. Then people, when they break, animosity kicks in, hatred, and they say, you know what, I'm going to make your life miserable.
It gets ugly.
It gets ugly, and then they try to revenge it, they try to do many things, and you say, no. That is not what marriage was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, then the way you came together in kindness,
Mm-hmm.
part also in kindness.
Okay. Reminder, listeners, you can call us in live in the air with your questions or comments at 246-02058. The other number is 24694315. So, Sh.Khalfan, someone might be listening and saying, I get that this is the foundation of a happy marriage,
Yes.
but perhaps my spouse is not being supportive and the person is frustrated and not happy.
Yes.
What can that person do when it's from one side?
Excuse me. First of all, I think we need to accept the fact that
Mm-hmm.
not all marriages are perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Perfection is not for this life. Perfection is for the life of hereafter. So we see that even the Prophet of Islam in his marriage, he also had marital problems with his spouse, with his wives. So that is a normal fact of life. And with that normal fact of life, there will be times when things go wrong, when things go sour. As long as we do not allow our emotions to override and to hijack our relationship, then we need to maintain our coolness and resolve matters in a mature way.
We have a call, Sh.Khalfan.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أهلا.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Yourself?
Alhamdulillah. السلام عليكم شيخ خلفان.
وعليكم السلام
Your good
وبركاته.
name?
حاتم.
حاتم العبد السلام.
أهلا بيك. أهلا بيك.
I recognize the voice.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. I wanted to add something. Today's show is very interesting, mashallah. It's about marriage and relationships.
Yes.
Yeah, Jazakallah
And
khair.
maybe the Arab and Islamic world is suffering now from very poor marriage relationships and a very high rate of divorce.
Yes.
Correct.
And in my personal opinion and in my personal experience, I've been married for the past 11 years.
Is that the second wife 11 months? Are you reliving it?
11 years.
Passed so
11
fast.
So
Don't
there is
get
no.
into trouble, Sheikh
So there are no secrets here, huh? Okay,
Open book.
we'll accept that. Okay.
The three things that helped me in my marriage, first, of course, is the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
And the second one is the advice from my parents. My parents really had a long talk with me before I decided to get married.
Okay.
And they gave me, the advice and the benefits and responsibilities of being a good husband.
Yes.
And that really helped me in my marriage.
MashaAllah.
And the other thing is the wasiyah of the Prophet ﷺ,
Allahumma
which is
salli.
al-ihsan, being kind to your family members. And when you're kind, other people might see it as weakness, but it's not a weakness. It helps in many things. Now, for example, when I see something bad in my wife or something I don't like, I write her a note or a message,
Okay.
and I explain my feelings.
Okay.
And then when I go back home, it ends there. So she responds to my messages, and it ends there. We don't have an argument. We don't have a fight. And
MashaAllah.
alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, it worked for the past 11 years, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
So I think ihsan is the key word for every relationship, and patience as well.
Absolutely. Barakallah feek.
Beautiful.
Barakallah feek.
Shukran,
Shukran,
jazakallah
Saad
khair, and please continue the amazing shows.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khair.
Continue calling us. We love your calls.
Shukran, shukran.
Shukran.
Yeah. Now I think Brother Hatim has summarized it beautifully. The word is ihsan. And al-ihsan, Almighty Allah said, first of all to mankind, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. Say a kind word to mankind. And then in our relationship also, al-ihsan has to be there all the time. Al-ihsan is basically to go beyond the call of duty. What is going beyond the call of duty is to say, you know what? Because I care for this person, I'm going to do more to try and win the other person. And I like his approach of when things are not right,
Yes.
he sends a message first, and that way then he also has vented off maybe his frustration, or he has posed his problems that he's unhappy with, and she's got time to read it.
Yes.
And that way, in doing that, whatever emotions they have, they can begin to dissipate. So by the time they meet together, the emotions are already out of the window. They have already absorbed the message. And that way then they can begin to adjust to whatever issues that have happened. One of the things that I found to be very successful in the early part of marriage, at the courting time, during the honeymoon, what I usually encourage a couple is for each to get a piece of paper and just to divide that piece of paper into two. So each person will have a page, one paper that is divided into two. And then on one side they'll say, these are the things I like in you.
Okay.
Yeah. So they will say, these are the things I have seen in you and I like in you, or I love in you. So they will write those things. The other say, they say, these are the things that makes me unhappy.
Okay.
So it's not about the thing I hate. We don't use the word I hate. or we don't use the word dislike.
Okay.
These are the things that hurts me.
Mm-hmm.
When you do them, they hurt me.
Personal feeling.
It's a personal feeling.
Okay.
And then they exchange those pieces of paper.
Mm-hmm.
So I write about my spouse and she writes about me.
Okay.
And then we take it as a feedback of the things the other person likes.
Mm-hmm.
We know that these are the things that the other half likes. I will try to do more of,
Okay.
to keep them, to maintain them, and to do more of them. Yeah, because the other half is happy with it. The things that hurts the other person, I will avoid using them as much as I can,
Mm-hmm.
or I will justify why it's difficult for me to change, or I'll say I need time and I need support for me to go and change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we begin to negotiate. We begin to talk about it, to establish a dialogue.
An understanding.
It could be one of the things that have been written there that this
Mm-hmm.
person was born with and it's difficult to get rid of.
Okay.
It could be it's a physical shortfall. It could be a mental shortfall. It
Mm-hmm.
could be that this person did have a difficult childhood, and as a result, this is how he or she is behaving. For example, one of the things that people write, they say, you know what, it hurts me when I see you weak, when people try to say something on you and you do not defend yourself. Could be.
Mm-hmm.
Or I see you being an introvert person. You're not extrovert. You're not lively. You're not sociable. You're not that. Those things could be that this person is like that because of a difficult childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes it could be that this person is argumentative. When you become argumentative, it hurts me.
Mm-hmm.
It could be because of childhood, that this person was alone and had to fight for himself to survive. And that is how he didn't have somebody to protect from bullying, from being bullied and other things. And as a result, it became a habit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are things that could be difficult to go and change in a person, but as long as we understand why this person is behaving in specific manners,
Yes.
and there's good intentions behind it, we may be able to accept.
Mm-hmm.
So by having those two lists, at least we understand where each stand and where each likes as well as what hurts the other person.
Nice. And I believe it's important, Sh.Khalfan, during this period to be yourself.
Yes.
The initial period. Many try to put across a certain image.
Yes.
And I think that's what brings a challenge
Absolutely.
afterwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's during the faking time.
Mm-hmm.
The faking time to try to impress the other person usually could lead also to difficulties, could lead to disappointments in the future.
Yes.
Yes.
For both sides.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sh.Khalfan, in our Arab societies, really, it comes across that there's more focus on rushing marriage rather than sustaining a happy marriage.
Yes.
And taking that relationship for granted. So how can we ensure as society, as individuals, not to fall into that trap?
Yes, an element an element of rushing a marriage is not a bad thing, because youngsters as they are full of energy, and with that energy also they need fulfillment, and opposite attract. So it is a natural thing that they would want to have the other half, whether they are boys or girls. So immediately after the teen period, everybody desires, men and women, they desire that intimate connection. So it is in Islam, it is always encouraged to have an early marriage, not to delay it, because sex out of marriage is taboo in Islam. Out of wedlock, no sexual relationship. So the earlier they can get married, the better. So the issue is not about getting married early. The issue is about preparing them for marriage. So in preparing for marriage, the mistake that happens with the majority of people is that they focus on materialistic preparation to ensure that they have a house, they have furniture, they know where they're going to have the wedding, which wedding hall they're going to hire, who they're going to invite, where they're going to go for the honeymoon, and and this is what people focus on.
And they start off with loans and
and all of those are materialistic stuff that can come and go. What people fail to do is to understand rights and obligations of marriage from the husband's point of view and from the wife's point of view. So some societies, they have a course where people attend, and in there they go and learn duties of a husband and duties of a wife, obligations of a husband, obligation of a wife, rights of a husband and rights of a wife. And they clarify that in the context of Islam and the context of law, for them to understand exactly what are they getting themselves into. Because this is a long-term contract. It's a lifelong contract. And usually in business, people don't get into a lifelong contract without knowing all the contractual obligations.
The purpose, understanding.
So they need to go and read all the articles, understand exactly, and if they get into difficulties, if they get into argument or differences, how to resolve those. So it is very important for people to educate themselves. And that's why the first verse revealed in Islam is Iqra, read, recite, proclaim. And without it, people get into difficulties. So it is totally different being friends and being spouses. It's totally different. Usually by being friends, we can tolerate each other because we don't live under the same roof. And being spouses, excuse me, it's a different measure altogether. So people need to know what they get themselves into. And in that, they need to realize there is no way out here. It's not a game. That today we are okay, tomorrow we fall out, and then you go to your way, I go my way. And then after 1 month, 2 months, we can fix it and come back together. No, it's not a relationship at an arm's length. It is a relationship that bonds the two together. So there is more to it than just merely the looks, just merely the money, just merely not knowing the person. So it is good to get deeper into getting to understand each other and know exactly what are the obligations and the rights.
Like a solid foundation.
Absolutely.
Start solidly.
Yeah. And any foundation that is not based on proper knowledge can get people into trouble.
Yes. So it's important, Sh.Khalfan, then to have the proper knowledge. And it brings me back to Hatim's question, where he said that he was offered input and guidance from his parents.
Yes.
And there's also a different scenario that we see where people are fed negative comments. Be careful, he will be like this, she will be like this.
Yeah, sometimes parents and friends, they go and tell the boy or the girl, do not become subservient. You are the boss. And being the boss, make sure that you do things with your way. And make sure that that person follows you. And unfortunately, that is a negative connotation and negative advice altogether. Usually, the wise advice to give is for example, the boy, is to say, look, you are taking somebody else's daughter. And she's going to be with you. She's going to be in your hands. And there are specific obligations that you have to fulfill. Make sure you protect her, make sure that you do not hurt her mentally, physically, emotionally. And you go around in those topics to talk about that person. Basically to say, look, you've been entrusted with somebody else's life, somebody else's emotions and heart. Go and protect it. Same thing, the message is given to a lady. Now you're going to have a man in your life. He is going to come and seek from you love, affection, support, emotions, empathy, sympathy, etc. If he doesn't get it from you, he may go and get it from somewhere else. So make sure that you look after him, you do not overburden him, you do not do this. And that is the proper advice to give. It's based on mercy, based on support, based on love, based on affection, based on thinking about the other. How can I make the other person happy? It's not about making me happy. If I make the other person happy, by nature, that person is going to also make me happy. And that is what marriage is all about. And the other thing, if you want to talk philosophical about marriage, the way I see marriage, whenever Almighty Allah mentions the blissful heaven.
We have a call, Sh.Khalfan.
We have a call? Okay,
yes.
let's take the call then.
Assalamu alaikum.
Can you turn your radio down, please?
Assalamu alaikum, Sh.Khalfan. Ahmed again here.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Ahmed, welcome, Ahmed.
Yeah, I want to participate in this topic.
Okay.
I was reading one of the books, which is called Tuhfat al-Arus in Arabic.
Yes.
Sh.Khalfan, you can translate it. In this book, there's a lot of information the individual before they get married.
Yes.
So, one of the articles or one of the phrases I was reading is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was giving advice to Aisha, al-Mu'mineen, that you are going to be married by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you are going to live with him. So my advice is, when you go to Muhammad, please always make your eyes with kahal and look after Muhammad. You are going to mix with Quraysh ladies. A lot of advice was given to Aisha by Abu Bakr.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays we find is that we gents, Khalfan, we gents in particular, we don't sit with our daughters and explain to them about life of marriage and how to look after the husband, how he can please his husband, how he can do things in a religious way to control the men. Yeah?
Yes, yes.
So in 21st century, I have seen this being implemented in Dubai.
Yeah.
What they do is they have they call it boot camp. Boot camp is they take a young generation before marriage. They're giving them training how to live in marriage life. They are teaching them how to help the wife in the house, and also daughters are taught how to help husband in the house, and so on. So I think we should use masajids and lectures halls not only to preach about this one. We should make a boot camp to teach our youngsters what is the big issue we are facing now about talaq, divorces.
MashaAllah,
Yeah,
very good idea.
Sometimes we hear that the guys are going for what they call it honeymoon, and they are coming with different flights. So,
Yes,
Sheikh
yes.
Khalfan, you can put more comment on this, and we always need your support. Shukran.
Shukran.
Thank you,
shukran.
Ahmed, for calling. Shukran. Sh.Khalfan, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back.
Inshallah.
Live with Sh.Khalfan Al Esry. On Let's Connect.
Welcome back to your Ramadan radio program, Let's Connect. Sh.Khalfan, before the break, we had a call from
Yes.
Ahmed,
Yes.
and he wants you to comment more on the concept of doing something like a boot camp or a masjid, making youngsters more aware, fathers making their daughters aware about marriage, and which would, inshallah, avoid the many divorce rate that we see.
Definitely. Talking about the boot camp, we did mention about the course. Whether we call it a boot camp, we call it a course, we call it a workshop,
Yes.
yeah, whichever names we give it, but it is a must. And it is the duty of the community to make sure that that happens. And so if the community gets engaged in preparing that, it's well and good. To my understanding is that the Minister of Awqaf, or the Minister of Justice, they are actually discussing or studying a concept of preparing a course that people will in future is going to be probably part of the law. They cannot get married without attending the course.
Okay, like a driving license.
Like a driving
You
license.
need a license for your drive.
So people have to go there, and then they have to pass the basic questions that are going to be posed to make sure at least they know what their duties, obligations, rights and wrongs, etc.
Okay.
As a concept of a father talking to the daughter, I truly like that idea because yes, as a father, I know exactly what men want from their wives. So I think being a father to give that advice to the daughter is an excellent idea. And going one step further, it would be also for a mother to give advice to the boy.
Okay.
Then because the mother knows exactly what a woman is looking for from a husband. Yeah? So I think that idea, difficult as it is, because we still have that element of shyness and of tradition and culture. We're talking about these subjects is not considered to be something to be entertained. But again, the Prophet of Islam said there is no shyness in religion, in doing things right. So it's good to let people know what to do and what not to do.
Okay, we have a call, Sheikh Khalfan. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. I think we lost the call.
Hello?
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Shakil. I have one question from Sheikhul Islam.
Shakil,
ahead.
thank you. Go ahead.
What's your question?
Hello?
Yes, what's your question?
Sir, some doctor says medical checkup is necessary before marriage, male and female.
Yes.
Blood group
Yes.
matching.
Yes.
But most of Muslim community are not agree in this opinion. So what would you will say about this?
Inshallah. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Shakil.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think Shakir is ahead of us. One of the other prerequisites we're going to talk about is the medical checkup.
Yes.
It's basically to make sure that when children, the offsprings come, they do not have those diseases that inherited by their parents, and to make sure that yes, it's the blood group and it's all these chronic diseases, whether it is thalassemia, whether it is diabetic, whether it is other disease as well. It's good to make sure that people do the medical checkup not before marriage. What is being discussed at the government level is for that to happen during secondary school.
Okay.
So that everybody has to go through a medical checkup for them to know exactly who they are and what they have and who they cannot marry to. So for example, they say if you are this blood group, you ought not to get married to someone who's got this blood group. Or because you have 50% possibility of having thalassemia or hepatitis or whatever illness it is, it would be encouraged not to go and marry someone who also have the same genes. So that is already known well before people get engaged and people begin to have the feeling for each other.
With each other.
Yes. So from the beginning, they would know that this person would be right and this person would be right. Because it's difficult already when people have already agreed to get married.
Yes, emotions are involved.
Emotions are all involved, and suddenly they get shocked by doctors. They say, you know what, you're not fit for each other. The pain is more. So the earlier people do, the better it is. Knowing who they can marry and who they cannot with regard to the physical health and the biological health. Yes.
Okay. So having awareness from before.
Yes.
Excellent. Now, Sh.Khalfan, before we had the call, you were talking about your philosophical perspective on marriage.
My philosophical perspective is that every time Almighty Allah mentions Al-Jannah, mentions Firdaus in paradise, He mentions it with the concept of with a spouse. Udkhulul jannata antum wa azwajukum. Be granted to enter the blissful paradise with your spouse. Innal muttaqina fi jannati wa ayun. إن المتقين في جنات إن المتقين مفازة حدائق وعنابا وكواعب أترابا. The successful ones are in the gardens of heaven, drinking beautiful drinks there and with a spouse. So it's always with the spouses are mentioned. And in that concept, what Allah wants us to do is to taste the blissful heaven in this dunya. To taste elements of that bliss. And the only way to do it is when either romance or when affection is there and people are supporting each other. So marriage, in actual fact, our homes, and because of tranquility, ought to be a seclusion, or to be places of solace, or to be place of tranquility, peace, harmony, affection, where someone truly looks forward to go to. Yeah. So it's not a place that I go there and when I go home, then I find a war has been already raged against me before I enter. It's not a place where to have arguments. It's not a place where to go and publicly in front of children and other and go and display our differences and begin to shout and throw words at each other. That is a house. A home is something else. So if we cannot find that tranquility and you don't look forward to go to our homes, then something is wrong. Fundamentally, something is wrong fundamentally.
So it should be like heaven on earth.
Heaven on earth.
Yes.
Absolutely. That is the right word. Our homes ought to be heaven on earth.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Now, Sh.Khalfan, if someone is listening right now and they feel they're stuck in a marriage, what key tip would you give them, whether they want to improve it? What key tip would you give?
I think first of all is to go and question the differences that they have. Do they have differences because of ego?
Okay.
That ego has been hurt? Or do they have differences because there are some serious fundamental issues in that relationship?
So you have to differentiate between the two.
80% of the time it is all to do with ego has been hurt and I don't want to lose. I'm losing my ground, I'm losing my position, I'm not being respected, my orders are not being followed, and my needs are not being met, etc., etc. Rarely it would be because of character, because of manners, because of being unfaithful and being disrespectful. Rarely, although there are some cases. So differentiating between whether something can be fixed or something is fundamentally wrong is number one.
Okay.
And if people are willing to give up their rights, in the sense that put the ego aside and go to the basics and say, you know what, can I overlook these shortfalls? Can I live with them? Would they hurt me? If yes, then yes, overlook those. Let them go. And this is one thing about being hurt, emotions. There are people who refuse to let go of negative emotions. If they are hurt once, they will keep on referring to that point.
They
You
can't
did
start
hurt me
a
once.
new page.
They do not start a new page. So every time a new argument comes, they open the previous files. When previous files are closed, close them forever. Don't open them again. Overlook them and move on. A lot of people don't want to do that. It is as if that is my winning card. I will always remind you why you were so nasty to me, why you were so hurtful to me, why you were so disrespectful to me. And we say, no, that is not a winning card. That is a losing card, because it will activate again previous stories and emotions. So the best thing to do, take day by day. Wake up in the morning, it's a new chapter. Be nice to each other, kind to each other, support each other, accept each other, and overlook the shortfalls. And that will continue. There's a beautiful story that I read once where a daughter said, my father used to work very hard. And when he comes home, the first thing he does is that we have a meal together.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a family dinner. And he said, one night, I don't know what happened to my mother. She burned, the bread was burnt. And when she presented to the father, and the girl said, I was expecting my father to blow out of anger, because he got home tired and he was hungry and now he's getting burnt food. But he said, my father was talking to me and he was eating that bread as if he hasn't noticed.
We have a call, Sh.Khalfan.
Okay, let's take the call and we'll complete the story.
Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام كيف الحال؟
الحمد لله, we're fine. Your good name?
سالم البطاي. السلام عليكم شيخ خلفان.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Good. Before I go ahead with my question,
yes,
I would like just to, it's kind of a request.
Okay.
Like, why do we continue having such good topic only during Ramadan? Why isn't there, perhaps tapes or CDs or perhaps books of such topics that can be available to me or to anybody, whether in the bookshops or anywhere else?
Yeah, okay. Good question.
Yes.
Jazakallah khair. We'll try to answer that.
This is one.
Inshallah.
Two, it's another thing that the previous years or the previous Ramadan, we during a time to time, but a reminder of the telephone number. I got some difficulties in getting the numbers and calling you.
Okay.
So it's very good every 2 minutes to keep reminding the numbers. That is really
Thank you, Salam. Will do.
Inshallah.
good. Now, coming back to my question, I've got a colleague of mine, Omani Muslim,
Yes.
who was in a long relationship with, unfortunately, non-Omani women, and unfortunately it did not work. So let's look into a religion path, because there are different, thoughts that we hear that Muslims can marry to two religions, that's Jewish and Christian. The woman, she was a Christian, and so is this correct? Can you Sheikh Khalfan, give a little bit of perhaps guidelines and all that?
About marrying a Christian woman?
Yeah.
Okay. Inshallah.
Are we allowed or are we not allowed? And if we are, in what condition and all that?
Okay. Inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Shukran, Salam. Thank you.
Shukran.
Sh.Khalfan, we have to wrap up, so we quickly...
MashaAllah,
Yes.
the time is out.
Yes.
So I suggest and then to wrap up, maybe we'll continue tomorrow. I'll just conclude the story.
Yes.
And then we'll answer Salim Batashi tomorrow. So basically, he was eating that bread, and he didn't notice that it was burnt. And after finishing eating and everything, and he was okay. And then the daughter came to him and said, "Father, I noticed you ate the bread that was burnt. Didn't you see that? Why didn't you say anything?" He says, "Look, I know your mother has had a tough day today, and I didn't want to make it any worse. Plus, eating that bread would not kill me. So why would I go and make her worse, make her day worse?"
Yes,
so just by overlooking that small mistake, life went on.
And that's ihsan.
That is ihsan.
Alhamdulillah.
Absolutely.
Well, we have to wrap up today. Salim will get back to your question on another show. So from all of us here at Let's Connect, this is your host Rym Aoudia with the Honorable Sh.Khalfan Al Esry and sound engineer Safiya Al Habsi. Ma'a salama, with peace and love.
This is Radio Sultan of Oman 90.4 FM.
سلام عليك سلام عليك سلام